I asked God, why are you taking me through troubled waters? He replied, because your enemies can't swim. What a word. That is the challenge for today. Are you swimming or are you drowning? Are you friend or are you foe? Do you want to live or do you want to survive?
I believe you don't mean I won't leave you, I won't deceive you. I'm still a sinner, but I'm still trying. I'm still a winner, so I'm still flying higher than the sky. Higher than the sky. Higher than the sky.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, wherever you are in the world. Again, this is your host, Blair, your Care Bear. And I first want to thank God for all He has done in my life. All the people He has brought in my life, all the people He has taken out of my life. I just thank God for everything. The trials, the tribulations, the lessons, the blessings. And, I can talk all day about how good God is. I can talk all day about what He's gotten me through. I can talk all day about it. Y'all know by now the type of energy I'm bringing. It is a vibe, even on my slow days. But today, I have come to the realization that it is okay to not be the same person you was last year, last week, last night. And of course it is a cliche, but that's just the times we live in. And also today, I want to acknowledge that this is episode 135. It has been a long time coming. Still got some ways to go. But as I mentioned before, I am on the Spotify for Creators podcast and everything, all the things that I have done thus far, just as far as just trying to get my bearings together, from rebranding, changing hosting to hosting sites, to host sites. And it feels good to still be able to do this, even though it's been a little lackluster. I haven't been as consistent as I once was, or even starting out. And then, now that I'm starting to, get a feel again for what I want to do with my show and what I want to bring to the table and when I want to release it. Because it's like, again, there's no set days. Like I'll say this because there'll be times where I release it on Sundays. There'll be times where I release it on Wednesdays. There'll be times I release it, whenever. Like a lot of times I'll try to, be a little more consistent, a little more revealing. Because if you don't know, I do music as well. I'm a songwriter, whether known or not. I do appreciate all of the people who listen. So those who haven't listened to any yet, just keep in mind, I'm here. You can stream me on all streaming platforms. And I do want to do one more thing before I get into talking about today's episode. I want to acknowledge all the podcasters who have been doing this for a short time, for a long time. Because like I said, finding the topics to talk about isn't easy, especially when you want to actually bring something to the table and you actually want to, not just create content, but to be purposeful. Because that's what I always try to do, is whether I'm talking about relationships, whether I'm talking about religion, whether I'm talking about, just pop culture, whatnot. And I've decided that, I'm going to, continue on course. I'm going to continue to, be honest and speak the truth. And I'll point out my opinions at points and talk about things in pop culture and everything like that. I go back and forth every day. Every episode is the same thing. I'll be like, all right, I'm going to talk about this. And then I was like, no, I'm not going to bring that energy. But I like I said, I just want to bring my full authentic self. And hey, I might be a Christian, but hey, I still have things that I watch and listen to and, partake in. So I'm not going to say how I became this way or when I got this way, but it seems like my creative instance is always, I want to say it might have started in middle school, because when I was taking up computers, I was in typing in 6th grade when I was 11. So, of course, it's been over 20 years since I've been in the technology field. Because even at the time, I remember when I was in elementary school and the Macintosh came out. And I was like, okay, this is cool. I just look up online on the internet and everything. I used to go on WWE.com and look at things on there. Like, I was a typical kid. I was, playing with toys and, watching Power Rangers. And I had my little stuffed animal Poochie. Rest in peace to him, and I miss him so much. But, there were certain things that I watched that I probably wasn't supposed to watch when I was younger. But when I'm so bad at timelines, but it's like when I got to middle school, I kind of started, and maybe even before then, but I started having my own, started finding my own way. You know what I'm saying? Like I at a time, and this was in elementary school too. I can start back from when I was, playing rec ball. I was at one point, a little physical, and I was in a little better shape than, of course, we all are when we're children. But I remember I was on playing rec ball with my brother, and he was already playing rec ball. He was more the athletic one, I want to say my sister might have been a cheerleader. I think I remember when my sister was a cheerleader. Man, that was a long time ago. That's kind of wild. But we played for the Panthers. I'll say like when my brother, he was playing basketball. He played for the Bulls at first. Then, they had the red and white. And then when he played for the Panthers for the first time, it was purple. And then when I came on, we was black. So it's like that's kind of when my athletic era started. I mean, I didn't play sports in school, but I played red ball. It was fun. It was cool. And I want to say from there, that's when because one thing about me is like I'm always like, I was a little odd where it's like, okay, I played for the Panthers in basketball. This is going to be my team. The Carolina Panthers was my team for a long time. And then, as I got older and older and older, it switched. But, yeah, like middle school was a time, you know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to say I was a popular kid when I was younger. I mean, I had my friends, and then when I went on to high school, I was known as the quiet boy. It was just because I didn't really have nothing to say. And I was a little rebellious at that time, but, just looking back at my life as a child and now, and it's like, man, I can still see some similarities, and then there's a big difference now, so I do want to say I've always had something to say since middle school. I've always been into, arts and craft and, just expressing myself since middle school, since I've been able to type good since, well, I wish I knew how to play the piano, but I don't, but, I still have one. I'm just trying to, just thinking, me and my brother was pretty close. Me and my sister, we wasn't as close. She's a little older than me. But, I always been the kind of guy that, and it might be because of just how I was brought up. And, of course, you are your parents' child. I know there's some tendencies where I reflect my mother. There's some tendencies where I reflect my dad. And, I'm just kind of going on a tangent right now, and I think I'm going all over the place, and you have to forgive me. I just had a bad start. There's certain things that I'm still trying to, prepare. Going into, my dad being in the military, and then my parents even separating and divorcing when I was young. I didn't think about it really until recently, where I knew that it was a change of of my character. But it's like, I really missed my dad and not really rebel against my mother, but it was just kind of like, I take a lot of pride in family. So even coming from where I come from, as far as like how my family is, my family is close. I'm close with my family on my dad's side, and then even like my mom's side, I'm close with some people on my mom's side, not as many. But just thinking about certain things when I grew up, on how I grew up. Growing up in church, not wanting to go like any typical kid doesn't want to go. And then when my parents divorced, separated, whatever, we wasn't going as much. So like a lot of that stuff started while I was in middle school. Started Cause my mom was out, so like my sister was, but just kind of like having my own friends. Me and my brother used to have pretty much the same amount of friends. Got to, I want to say in sixth grade when we moved. Well, no, we was already living in Chesapeake, but like by seventh grade when I moved to Portsmouth back in '99. Was it 99? Yeah, 99. I kind of started, like I was deep heavy in video games at that point. I had, wrestling games, shooting games, and all that stuff. It was cool. We used to play. Man, I'm trying to like, I done lost my where I was going, but let me just tell y'all, like, I have been I want to say since my parents divorced, I didn't realize how much it affected me when my dad wasn't in the home anymore. And of course, my mom had friends who's come, but it's like, man, I don't even think I didn't like my dad ain't never teach me how to fight. My mom ain't only thing my mom would say was just like, hey, if you fight, you win. You keep fighting until you win. And then and I don't know if it's just because my dad wasn't a fighter or not, because like I said, same thing. I kind of get a lot of my personality from my dad, but one thing that I will acknowledge is that I didn't know, like I didn't learn how to fight. Like my brother was like saying, my brother was athletic when he was in karate, he was doing sport like basketball. He did all that stuff. But on me, I was just like I said, I was just a typical kid. I was always into just having my alone time. I went out and hung out, had friends and stuff, but I was into toys. I was into, you know, movies. And sometimes, like I said, my mom wasn't home, and we used to just be out. We used to just kind of like do whatever. Still good kids, but just used to do whatever. Um, and of course, I'm going all over the place, just trying to, get to the point where it's like where I am now. Because for somebody like me being 37, I'll be 38 in July. Me, being in, fights. Not that many fights, but I've been in fights. But just me being 37 and just having quite a resume. Like I had multiple jobs, I had multiple interests. I always just kind of been in a lot of different things. And I don't know if it's just because I've always kind of been standoffish. Like I said, I didn't do anything in school. I always look at myself as the underachiever, but I you know, me being a father now, and then even with my son, like I had him write a vision board yesterday, and asked him, hey, you can put whatever you want up there. You can add to it, you can take away. Just write what you like. Just what are your goals? And he wrote it, and I was excited. And I'm thinking about my life, thinking about there's been many times where I wanted to be in computers. Like I wanted to be a video game developer. I wanted to I went to school for computer draft and design, and at one point it was called CAD. But I went to school for that. Then I wanted to do like animation and things, and I wanted to be in IT. I went to school for IT. I'm in school now for cybersecurity, and then like even still wanting to be a software engineer, and and there's different things. And then as I got older and started working, like I was working at Walmart, realized doing things, and I got older, started driving, and I was like, you know what, I want to go to school for, you know, aircraft maintenance, which my uncle does that. And then it's like, you know, I was trying to go to school, wanted to go to school for that, but you know, the tuition was too much, and you know, at that time, like I'm like, hey, I don't want to pay for school again. I already have these debts that I'm still paying on and stuff, but it's like I wanted to be a mechanic. And then when I started working, fast forward to, you know, 2016, 17, you know, I was working at the Loft Hotel, you know, and I got into, you know, doing like mechanic stuff. And I was like, man, I want to, you know, like I said, I was still doing like, I was still into aviation and things, but it was like, man, I want to be a mechanic. You know, I want to be able to fix things and, you know, do maintenance work, which eventually I ended up going to Michael and Son school, and I flunked out of that. But I mean, I was still into that. You know, at some point when after I got divorced, you know, my son was about to be 3 or 4 or whatnot. And then, I studied to get my CDLs. I'm just trying to figure it out, because one thing about me is that I have had a lot of jobs, and I have had a lot of skills, and I've been into a lot of trades and tried different trades. Made money, haven't made money, been out the house, been back in the house, been without a car, been with a car. It's been like I had a lot of misfortunes, but you know, God is still good. But as I get older and my son gets older and things like life's still a blessing, but it's I think about stuff and I was like, man, you know, I even tried rapping, like being like a rapper, you know, when I was in my 20s. And it's like I was like, what? I've been writing since I was maybe 14, writing rhymes and, you know, trying to find my own sound, you know, as far as, you know, because again, I used to listen to guys like, you know, 50 Cent, G Unit, Game, Lloyd Banks, Fabulous. He's my favorite rapper, Joe Budden. You know, even LL and stuff, just trying to like listen to them and trying to, you know, rap in their same cadence and flow, but with different words, because I've always been, you know, a lyrical person. So I always wanted to say stuff, wanted to say something. So I'll always use like certain references as a guide to like, okay, this is how I want to, this is what I want to, these are my words, but it sounds, the flow and the delivery sounds like them. But, you know, like I did MySpace music, you know, and then get older, you know, like I said, life happens, you know, you can't make a living off rapping. Especially when, you know, you got bills and it's like you can make a living off rapping eventually, but, you know, it wasn't in my cards. Like I never been somebody who wanted to be in the spotlight. I never really wanted to like be a performer or anything. So that's why even now, like when I have so much music out now, you know, most of my stuff are, you know, beats, but then, you know, I started writing and then I, you know, started building, you know, my catalog up. But, you know, like I said, I did that. And I mean, and one thing that I've always knew was that, hey, I'm gonna be an author one day. I'm gonna be like, I did poems. I mean, I still write it. I mean, a lot of the times, and I was telling my friend this, a lot of the stuff now, I mean, I kind of like secluded on like Facebook and Twitter now, but I've gotten better at, you know, putting more pen to the pad now. So overall, you know, as I'm taking this journey now to, you know, be a published songwriter, author, screenwriter, That's really my passion, just writing. I can write anything, raps, songs, poems, scripts. And it's just me just really trying to put myself out there and to find a way to get it. Because like I said, when you don't have money, you're limited to a lot of things. But I've been praying, I've been asking God to show me the way, to guide me, through these obstacles that I'm facing in life. Because I had panic attacks some years ago, and even midlife crisis. And again, I would say I'm in my midlife, but I didn't have midlife crisis at like in my early 30s, late 20s or whatever. But it's like certain things where I need to be a little bit more responsible, a little bit more vigilant on, especially my life, take my life a little bit more seriously. But I've did a lot of things that I would like to share with y'all. And I feel like anybody who knows me or don't really understand me, I feel like I have to, share it, because I'm not going to act like that I don't want to be liked. I mean, at some point, I don't care, but it's like, everybody wants people to, feel them and to have, like, kind of respect them or even like them. Like, those who don't, it's like, it is what it is, but those who do, it's appreciated. But it's like, I think, as a human being, we kind of get a little bit too prideful and too strong, where it's like, hey, I'm going to do this myself. I got to do it myself. Hey, shout out to all the haters. That's not true. I don't believe that people really don't care what people think, because I believe that we all care what people think, but when people have negative feelings towards us, it doesn't bother us. But it's just kind of like, I mean, you can't make people like, you can't make people respect, you can't make people rock with you. So you have to have kept tunnel vision on those who appreciate you, who love you. So I think that's the thing. We have to pay more attention to those who embrace us and loves us more than the people who reject us and hate us. You know what I'm saying? Because we all care, because otherwise we wouldn't be posting things on the internet. We won't be, putting out music, putting out movies, doing things like we're all consumers of something. So it's like we care to a degree, because I'm gonna tell you, if you didn't have people, if you didn't have friends, if you didn't have family, life would be a little bit different for you. I mean, a lot of us, like me, I don't get money from my music, from my podcast. I mean, hopefully at some point, there will be people who will, enjoy it, be able to listen to it, share it or whatnot. But I've really been doing a lot of self-reflection. Like I said, I had a lot of jobs. There's been a lot of, career goals that I've made for myself and my whole 20 years of working, and like I've been working thankfully since I was 18. I wasn't, in a position where I had to work at 14 or 15 or nothing. It wasn't really in my mind. Thank God for my parents who've, been able to, do what they had to do to provide for us. And, even now thinking about my son, I want what's best for my son. I want to be able to, get by him things and do things with him, for him. He did make student of the month, and of course, they didn't announce it yet, but he made student of the month, and it made me so proud. And even with the teacher, just talking about how kind he is and how everybody likes him, it just makes me really want to cry because, like I said, my son, who's autistic, he is a kind person. He's a kind young man. And I'm just proud to be his father. Like, he has taught me a lot. Just as far as like how to love better, how to show up differently. Um, you know, my son, is very special, and I knew that from before he was born. I remember, and I think I might have said this before, but I remember when I guess before me and my ex-wife even got married, but when she was pregnant with him, there's been so many times where I had to leave work, times where I had to come to work late, but take her to the doctor or the hospital because she just wasn't, he was giving her a battle. But it's just like, man, my son, man. There was a time. This was like earlier in, after my divorce. I remember, like, anytime I would talk about my son, I would get emotional. And I'm emotional now, but I used to cry just talking about him because I wanted so much for him. I wanted to do so much for him, and I was like, man, I done messed up. I didn't, I was wrong. Me and my ex-wife, we split, and I was still able to see him. Like I said, I'm very active, very proud father and stuff. But it was just like, man, it's different now when you're not in the same house as your children. And that's one thing that's another thing that I think that I hold to a high pedestal is, not marriage, but that's high too. But it's like, just being, you have to be there. Like, I know women, there's, deadbeat men and even deadbeat mothers and stuff, but it's like, for me, I can't, I don't care. Like, I don't care if I don't have any money. I'm gonna be there for my son. Like, I love him, man. Like, he'll just randomly just like, we can just be sitting down and just looking at whatever, and he'll just say, "Daddy, I love you," and that stuff like that makes me proud because, man, it's a blessing. And I'm just gonna speak for myself. I don't want to speak for any other parent or whatnot, but I'm you know even with my goddaughter, her, like I always say, yeah, that's my firstborn, my god baby. Because at that point, I didn't even feel like I was gonna have any children. So my friend, who eventually we ended up dating after some time, like years later, but like my friend, I was, me and her was close, and I would, like, we didn't have the service. I missed the service, but my goddaughter, man, I love her. She was so sweet. But just been. Sometimes I used to try to race with time, so I used to always be like, "All right, I'm 25 now. I need to be doing this. All right, I'm 39. I need to be doing this. I'm 34 now. And I need to be doing this. I'm 30." So it's like I used to always. That's how I used to carry myself. I wanted to be married at a certain age. I wanted to have a house at a certain age. I wanted to have like these businesses at a certain age, and I have got none of that. And part of that is my fault. A lot of it, matter of fact, all of it is my fault. I'm gonna just be honest. All of it is my fault because I haven't, put forth a lot of of my aspirations. Like I have a lot of big aspirations, and my ambition just doesn't always go. I was looking at 30 for 30. I've been looking at a lot of those lately, and I was like, man, these athletes, these guys, they go through a lot, and I mean, even with me, even with my view on, what athletes get paid, they don't really do anything that makes the world better. But that's neither here nor there. It is what it is at this point. Like I have to learn how to get out of my own way and my own understanding, to where it's like, people sacrifice. People make sacrifices. People put their lives on the line for things that they love and they enjoy to do. So whether you're an athlete, whether you're a teacher, doctor, and whatnot, it takes sacrifices. And even for myself, I will say, like, I don't know if I made any sacrifices that have been able for me to really like fight for, because again, I've been out of the house, but I was in my 20s when I got out of the house, and even when I was in my 20s, like I said, I was seeing my ex-wife, and me and her ended up moving in together. Then we got married. My son was already born at this time, and then some problems came out, and that was that. And then things happened. Ended up moving with my brother. Then I got a place. Then I ended up moving out of there, find another place. So it's like I only had been to 2 places by myself. And I'm not ashamed of that. Like I said, they're just like sometimes for me, just being who I am, just looking out for people and trying to help people, I forgot about myself, and it slowed me down a little bit. But I'm still here, and I'm still blessed. I'm still happy, and I'm still proud of the life that I have, the people in my life. Well, hold on, I'm a lot of times I'm reading something. I'm just reading something. So yeah, that's another thing. I'm sorry, I was reading something, you know. We have to, and it's kind of good because it segues into where I was going at anyway. Like when, like we have, not just as parents but as people, we have a responsibility to each other. Because we have been behind. For those who have a privilege, who comes from wealth, and you have the opportunity to go to a top tier college, who has 6 figures waiting for you when you get older, who has a trust fund. Like those people are ahead. And it's fine, life isn't fair, but when you accomplish something in life, our grandparents, even our parents, they work hard to provide for us, and then they leave us something for us to have that's paid for. But sometimes, as a child or as somebody that's just trying to survive, you're like, I don't want it. I need the money because again, the economy is jacked right now. But it's we go in, we live a life believing that we're just supposed to survive. And I refuse to believe that. I refuse to live by that. Now, under the circumstances, I should, but I just don't. I feel like we should do more than just survive, but strive, thrive on life. Things are going to happen. Bills are going to happen. Bills are going to pile up. Accidents are going to happen. We're going to get sick, and sometimes things will slow down. But I live by a philosophy. God is good. I live by a philosophy. You work hard, you eat, but we have to take care of our wellness too, our mental too. Because sometimes when we look at our lives when we get in our 60s, 70s, and 80s, we'll be regretting saying, hey, I didn't do this, I didn't do that. So a lot of times we're doing things while we're young, but we're not thinking about our mental space and how much it's just like life is what you make it for real. But the thing is, like when you get, but like if you can be behind one time and then that can change everything. Like a lot of us are just one mistake away from affecting your life for 20 years. Because I'm a living testimony of it. But thank God, like I said, I've been blessed to where I have a little help. But the thing about it is, we can inherit pain and we can inherit peace. Even though you have to live your own life. But sometimes our lives starts off a little backed up, a little bad. But you have to overcome it. How do you overcome it? Praying. Taking some time to treat yourself out. Do what you enjoy. Do what you love to do to overcome it. Because the bills are going to be here. And sometimes even when you live beyond your means, we still have to make time for the things we enjoy and the things we love. Like I'm a big advocate of that. And I remember my brother was telling me one day, he was like, I can say that because, I don't have a house number. It's like, yeah, I say it because that's what I believe. Like I could be homeless and still believe it. Like right now, like I said, I'm broke and it's like I still believe something greater. Of course, we have to work. A man who works is a man who eats. Of course, we have to be responsible, take accountability. But what about the things that we enjoy? Should we only enjoy it when we have gotten all the bills paid and taken care of our business? I don't think so. But the thing with me is that, I'm big on also as far as like accountability, where it's like, hey, I believe this, but I also believe in, accountability. So whatever you decide you want to do with your life, whatever you decide you want to get like if you want to go and travel and your rent's due tomorrow. You got to make a decision. You ain't never been over here to Costa Rica. You get one lifetime opportunity to go there. You know, you got a passport or whatever, and you know, you just need, like, you need to get away because you've been working for 20 days straight for 16 hours, no breaks. You go to work, go to sleep, get up, do it all over again. You do that all day. Sometimes you don't even have enough time to wash your behind, but you work. There's people doing that. There's people just nonstop working. I've been in that position where I was just nonstop working. You know, I didn't have no faith in the world. Where I lost my faith, I was like, man, I can't. It's just so much. It's like, why is God doing this to me? Why is God doing this to me? But it's like, it goes back again to what I said in the beginning. This is happening because the enemies can't swim. You're either going to swim or you're going to drown. And just because you're drowning doesn't mean that you drowned yet. So you can still overcome it. You can still be better. You can still do the thing that you want to do. I always say, you know, it's a lot harder when you have children, multiple children, and a family to take care of. It's a lot harder, but it can be done. Like, that's why even for me, like, I'm strict on myself, and sometimes it trickles over and projects on the other people because it's like, hey, I want what's best for you because I want what's best for me. And even though I might not be doing everything right, that doesn't mean that you can't do it right now, because it takes certain things. It takes certain people will be able to get right to it. Like, I can talk to a woman and tell her, like, if you want to do something, do it and go about your day. And she'll be able to do it right, like, just like that. And then I could tell myself the same thing, but it might take me a little bit. But it's almost like, yeah, I'm talking myself out of doing things that I want to do because of the fear that, hey, I got this bill. But again, we need money, so we have to work. I feel like if we could live free, again, this is in a perfect world. We can live free where we can have to worry about none of that stuff. I promise you, the world will be a lot more peaceful. I promise you that, you know, there will be a lot less drama. But when you have bills and you have responsibilities, and then you have other people in your business, and then you have other people in your ear, have people that you're talking to, and vice versa, it gets overwhelming for a lot of people. Everybody gets overwhelmed, they just handle it differently. So even for me, like, I've come from a strong foundation. You know, I will say that my grandparents may be the only example that I've seen from childhood to adulthood to where that marriage lasts. Rest in peace to my grandfather Thomas. They're the only one. I'm sitting here thinking, I'm like, well, of course I may have some uncles and aunts, maybe cousins who married and their marriage is still intact, but it's like, I'm just saying as far as what I've seen. And again, no disrespect, again, like I said, I have my Uncle Mike and Von. Look, I always mess with names, but then there's, you know, I wasn't around them as much, so I'm just talking about those who I'm around. Like my parents didn't stay married. You know, I was in high school when my sister got married, so maybe. Yeah, so I guess 20 years. I mean, I guess that's a good time. So yeah, they still married, but it's just like, that's my sister, you know. So sadly, I'll say this is like, man, I remember I told her and my brother-in-law, I said, yeah, I see y'all. Like, I appreciate y'all. Y'all inspire me. Y'all inspire me to like that. Like y'all, even with my cousin, you know, both my cousins are married, and you know they inspire me and stuff. You know, my brother is not married. He's not close to getting married. A couple of my cousins aren't married, not close to getting married and stuff. My one of my cousins is married and stuff, but it's like the people that I'm around. Like I do have a brother of mine, one of my best friends. You know, he's married. I forgot how long he's been. I don't know. I don't think it's been 10 years yet, but he's married. But like I say, I grew up with him, so it wasn't the same thing. But you know, yeah, like life is gonna life. Life is gonna happen. But what I encourage and what I inspire to do and to be is we have to overcome all the obstacles. We have to conquer all the confusion, all the conflicts. You know what I'm saying? We have to beat all the beatings. We have to move every mountain. We have to shake the ground with our ambition, because the aspirations, again, like I said, I have more aspiration than ambition, but with the aspiration being the guiding point. And again, I don't want to take too much longer on this, but like I say, for me, I've always took strong pride in being in my son's life. I always took pride in being a man of my word. I've always taken pride in working hard. And things have always kind of been a struggle for me because I never knew, or I'm not going to say never knew, I never stuck to something because it wasn't a passion. You know, there's going to be some people who can look over that, who can, you know, be like, yeah, this isn't what I want to do, but I'm gonna do it for right now. But me, like I've been at jobs. You know, I had maybe 3 jobs in my life that was longer than a year, but I will say 2 jobs, only one of those jobs, like I really miss doing. But again, we have to remember, you know, who we are. Like, no matter what obstacles we face, no matter what people say, believing in yourself makes a whole difference. Having faith in God makes a difference. And that's really my main thing, is like my faith in God is stronger, is higher than any faith in myself, any doubt on situations. And of course, I'm not saying, you know, to just be, you know, just let things be, but you know, you can still ask for help, because you also have to remember that God uses us as a vessel. He's been using me my whole life, and I didn't always realize it. You know, from me being in, you know, to sports, to me being into music, like I've been living a life trying to please everybody, and then it kind of set me back. But you know, now, and even as my son gets older and I understand life a little bit better, it's like, you know, yeah, things are going to be hard, but you have to make the decision on how you want to spend your life. You know, I think not everybody has the advantages that another person might have, just like some people might not have the disadvantages. But the way that I look at life is that we all should be able to get along and come together and to help one another. But again, that's in the perfect world. But if I just stay on the course of who I am, who I want to be, and how I show up for people, everything will be better. Like I told you, like I don't have the things that I want, all the things that I want. I have what I need. I'm able to wipe my butt every day. I got somewhere to sleep. But it's like, we take those things for granted too because those are here. Like we don't look at we don't go outside and just be like, man, I'm taking this. Like we really take the sun for granted. We even take a lot of times we take God for granted because we know He's with us, and sometimes because we know, we kind of disregard it. No, we have to live in that. We gotta live and stand in that forever. Like I remember when I never had a I ain't gonna say I never had a near life death experience, but I remember one time when I might have been in I think I might have still been in, man, I don't remember how old I was, but there was a time when, I want to say middle school, and I had to walk to school and sometimes walk from one place to another, like 30 minutes, 40 minutes to go to another neighborhood to see my friends and stuff. And I remember walking back home at night, man, I remember this dog hopped this gate, and I tell you, I was scared. I was running, man. I was like, oh my goodness. The dog hopped the gate. And even before then, like I used to always kind of like walk across the street, but it was like there was another group of dogs, like two Great Danes in another yard, but it was a little bit further down. But I remember there was this particular yard I used to walk past, going to school, out of school, even at nighttime when I was on the weekend and stuff. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna walk right there because the dog was just out there. But I remember the dog just tipped down and jumped up, and I didn't look back. I just kept running. I said, oh, help me! So I don't even think I was running to my house. I just ran to like the closest house I could get to on the door. I was about to knock on their door, like, hey, somebody help me. But like I said, I was in middle school. I was a little weakling. I was a little scaredy cat, younger growing up. Like I said, I was a typical kid, Like I said, I'm not trying to get bit by no dog. So yeah, I don't care. I don't have enough courage in myself to try to fight an animal. Like I always say, even rats and stuff. Like I know I can kick those things, but I don't want to be by one. None of that stuff. But it's like anything that can jump on me or get on me, I just avoid it. I'm not taking, like, my reflexes are fast, but I don't know if my precision is as good. So like a dog might try to run at me, or a cat or somebody can run at me, and I can just go ahead and square up and like, yeah, I'm gonna kick it. But I'm like, nah, my teeth ain't sharp like this. And like I said, I might kick almost and miss it, and then that'd be that. But yeah, it's just like life. Life is what you make it. It's definitely a blessing, and I want everybody to understand that. Whatever you're doing, whatever like I said, if you're a trust fund baby, if you inherited anything, like you got to make what's best of it. But especially for those who don't have the same advantages as maybe the rich people or anything, just always remember that you have today. Your life is greater than a 9 to 5. Your life is greater than that celebrity that you're going to see. Your life is greater than your biggest bill. Your life is greater than, your hardest struggle. And whether you believe it or not, it's because God loves you. It's because God believes in you. So even if you're not on that path yet, on that path of knowing Christ, even on that path of redemption, on that path of faith, on that journey, even if you're still struggling with your identity, even if you're still struggling financially, if you're just struggling in anything, just remember that today makes the difference. Some people didn't wake up this morning. Some people got shot. Some people got in car accidents. And, you know, God bless them as well. But the thing is, like, you have a blessing to be a blessing. A lot of this stuff was irrelevant to a lot of other things. But I just needed to really tell y'all that I have a story that's worth telling. It's worth sharing. I'm just a black kid from VA, military brat, church baby, but I'm here. And I do want to know, better yet, I do want to say that when times get hard, when you're battling an addiction, when you're battling depression, of course it's easier said than done. But I do want to just tell you, I do want to say to you, think about the people that love you. Call the people that love you. Talk to them. We might be too broke for therapy, too broke to go out, but find your passion and do it. And eventually, at some point, your life will change for the better. In God, Jesus' name, by the grace of God's holy name, He'll look after you. And like I always say, could be 5 years from now, could be 20 years from now, but you gotta believe and trust. There's a lot more that I can say, but I'm gonna go. And I appreciate everybody for listening. As always, stay safe, stay productive, and positive. This is Blair, the Care Bear.